I wanted to talk about 1Password for journalism. So I have
Hmm.
done a lot of training, and I actually keep in touch with a lot of the journalists that I have trained. A lot of them are affiliated with the Norwegian Institute of Journalism. So if you are someone that I've done training with, or if you went to DEF CON with me a couple years ago, then hi, it's nice to still be connected. So you might have noticed that your 1Password account was recently frozen. If you're a journalist that trained with me, or if you're somebody who applied to the 1Password for journalism program, then right around the RSAC conference, your account was automatically frozen. And that meant a couple of key things. One, you can no longer add credentials to your vault. Two,
Hmm.
you can no longer autofill. And this is a best practice thing where years ago, I covered a tool that steals clipboard
Right.
passwords and basically assumes that people are going to be using password managers by copying and pasting. And 1Password responded and said, well, this is not best practices. You should be autofilling. You should never be copying and pasting. So it basically took this group of people that they said like, hey, we really value you. We think that your security is really important, gave them a free account for several years, and then like very abruptly downgraded it so that they can no longer functionally use that. So a lot of the journalists that I trained before reached out and asked me like what was going on. And they were basically put in a position where they're now forced to pay for this subscription if they want to have a number of features that they were using, like the ability to share credentials between colleagues. So I reached out to 1Password around the time of the RSAC, and oops, and they responded that they were upgrading this program, and they can get a 2-year free discount on 1Password individual, which has a bunch of differences, one of which is you can't share credentials. So if you're a team of journalists or if you're working on a team, it makes it a lot harder to work together on just about anything. So I asked whether or not this was there was abuse of this policy, or if like somebody was abusing it. So maybe there were too many free accounts being made, or like entire businesses were running off of it, and maybe that wasn't fair. And I also asked how people could basically proceed if they didn't want to pay for this, like if they
Right.
could switch to another provider, and they just did
Right.
not answer me on that. So I have to credit them. They did give me a response, but it kind of like evaded 2 of my questions about
Sure.
like how you can move on. So I asked people on my Twitter, and it's just like, hey, what is your favorite password manager that's open source? Because the solution here is like, if you can use an open source tool, then nobody can yank away the ability to securely use your
Hmm.
password manager or add new secure passwords. And to me, like this felt kind of not so good. So in the future, when I'm doing journalist trainings, I'm going to be using a vendor neutral approach, or at the least I'm going to be using an example that's open source, so that it is maybe a little bit more confusing on setup, and maybe not as feature rich, but still gives a consistent set of features that doesn't
Hmm.
change over time. So that was really embarrassing to have to go back to a lot of the people that I trained and explain why their accounts were locked, because they thought that like they'd done something wrong or they were under attack.
Right.
So little bit of a surprise from that. But anyway, there are options for people who are interested. I will say that Bitwarden was the #1
Yeah.
responder, and also Bitwarden itself responded to the look, Bitwarden itself responded to the thread. So I'm not one to endorse, but I will say for responsiveness, like someone tagged them and they just showed
Hmm.
up. So I'm gonna follow them. Again, not an endorsement, but I have recently ended my friendship with 1Password, and I am now
Hmm.
interested in a new friendship with Bitwarden.